Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by tournamentpokeredge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, presented by jockacoaching.com. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am your host here in sunny, hot, relaxing Miami, Florida, wishing one and all of our listeners a very happy Halloween. Hope you have some spooky fun, put on a cool costume, and go get some sugary snacks. I'm personally enjoying a nice trip on board the Queen Elizabeth, a gorgeous cruise ship making its way through the Caribbean Sea, but I am never too busy working to put out a weekly episode, and there is so much to discuss on this fine eve of All Saints Day. Let's get into it. First of all, a lot of people have been asking me about this Ren Lin fiasco from last week. Banned from all WSOP and GG events. Now, I know Ren Lin myself. He is very well liked. He is a fun-loving guy, makes a lot of jokes at the table. Win or lose, he's a joy to be around. But look, he did something that goes against the code of conduct. And if GG and its wholly owned subsidiary, the World Series of Poker, are not going to enforce the laws, or the rules, I should say. I don't know that it's actually a law that you're not allowed to share advice with your friends or something. But yeah, what he did was wrong. It's against the code of conduct. And if they're not going to enforce it when one of their top pros commits an act like this, then when will they enforce it? They've got to set the example from the top down, and it looks like that's what they are trying their best to do. So I hate to see this happening to Ren, because we do like him, of course. But yeah, I mean, actions have consequences, and this was found out. And give GG credit, because the action that they did take was swift and severe. But I think Ren will survive just fine. He's just going to have to sit out for about a year. And, that's what's going on there. The other big news, of course, was the Chauncey Billups, FBI, NBA, Cosa Nostra, the Mafia, like all of that stuff. And look, I mean, to me, this has kind of been an open secret in the high stakes world for a while. And I'm certainly not a member of that community, but even I, as a lowly mid-stakes grinder, have been aware of at least the rumors going around about this LA poker game that did sort of move to Vegas, or migrate, if you will, to Vegas, involving several well-known athletes and other notable personalities. Yeah, I mean, I've heard about this, and it's kind of similar to me in comedy when all the news came out about Bill Cosby many years ago. That was something all of us had sort of heard about, and it was kind of an open secret, I guess you could call it. But yeah, to see this all coming to light, I just hate that every time the mainstream media has any type of news about poker, it's about somebody cheating. It's never just good news, or that poker is growing, or that there are health benefits to playing poker regularly, or anything like that. It's always this person was crooked, and that guy stole, and this guy cheated. And yeah, it really sucks, because apparently this game was not a fair game at all. Apparently it was totally rigged. And according to the FBI, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I will try to keep up with this story as it continues to develop. Lots of great feedback last week on our episode featuring Sylvain Losley. For me, the great feedback is I finally learned how to pronounce my friend's last name. If you haven't heard that episode yet, please check it out. The October 24th installment, which you can now also watch on YouTube. That's right, the podcast is now available on YouTube for those who are used to audio only. You might be surprised to see some visuals along with that. So yes, do check out our YouTube channel. There's a link in the description. You can always get all my links just by going to claytonfletcher.com if that's easier for you. But yeah, guys, I I'm so happy that so many of you enjoyed the conversation with Sylvan. He is a crusher. He's also a really good guy. And I think that kind of comes through in the interview. This guy has had so much success in poker over a great many years, and yet he remains very humble, very down to earth. And even once in a while, he'll say something like, "I may be wrong." And a lot of very successful people I know are incapable of uttering that particular phrase. So I'm happy to know Sylvan. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed our episode with him last week, because Sylvan is a beast. And he's also a coach at jockacoaching.com. And right now there's only one way to get a discount on Jocka Coaching. And it's my promo code TPE. Jocka Coaching, this site is specifically designed for busy people. Maybe you've got a job, but you want to spend, a short amount of time watching a video or working with a coach quickly to kind of master one concept at a time. And it's very much laid out in a way that is very respectful of the viewer's time, because time is money. I mean, there is a section of this website called Start Here, and then you can find exactly what you're looking for. What are the most important things? What are the must-watch lessons? And when are we going to be doing live coaching sessions, whether it be with Thomas Boivin, who was mentioned on last week's episode, Kevin Rabishow, who is another absolute beast, a true legend of the game, very, very smart guy who's also incredibly good at explaining things, or even Faraz Jaka himself, who does quite a bit of the coaching on the site that bears his name. You guys can save 20%. Use my promo code TPE. You can click the link in the description. I don't know how much longer this promo code is going to be in existence. They told me it was good for the month of October. So if you're listening to this after Halloween, jump on that right now. You get 7 days for free and then save 20% once you sign up at jockacoaching.com, and the link is jocka.poker/TPE. All right, guys, let's go back now and take another look at Sylvan's strategy hand from last week's episode. It was actually a student that had sent this hand over. It's from the final table of an online high roller, a 250 euro buy-in, which definitely is considered higher stakes. There are a lot of $2 and $3 tournaments on the internet, so anything triple digits and up is considered a high roller. The hero in this hand is in the big blind. He is last in chips with 13 big blinds, but the player on his immediate left also has just 14 big blinds. So these two are very close, and they're bottom two with 6 players remaining. Most of the other stacks are around the 30 big blind range. So it's a pretty shallow final table overall. And the action begins with a hijack opening to 2 big blinds and then folding around to the big blind, holding the queen of hearts, 9 of clubs. And hero makes the call. And as mentioned last week, GTO Wizard does not like this call. We are never supposed to call with queen 9 off. It's a pure fold, whereas queen 10 is a call. And the calling range actually includes a lot more suited, unpaired hands, all the way down to 4-3 suited. In the offsuit category, you've got hands like king 10, ace 9. They get in there quite a bit. But queen 9 does not belong in the calling range. This is just a fold. We also do have a tiny range for 3-betting to like 5 big blinds, which is just pocket aces all the time, pocket kings some of the time, and then ace king a good amount of the time, and then ace 3 off and ace deuce off just to have a few bluffs in there. Otherwise, we never make it 5 big blinds. What this looks like to me is that the solver wants to be able to make it 5 bigs with pocket aces. It doesn't really want to do that with any of these other hands, but if you're going to do it with aces, you have to have other hands in your range to do it with. Obviously, we would much prefer to shove with ace king, but according to the proper theoretical strategy, if you're going to do this with aces, you have to do it sometimes with a few other hands, like occasionally pocket kings, some of the time ace king, and then a few bluffs. mixed into the range. And this, by the way, is something that came up several times during last week's episode, is that the importance of being balanced is that your opponent can't narrow down your range as well if you have the proper distribution of playing it this way, playing it that way, the same exact hand. And this did come up several times during my discussion with Sylvan, and it's something that I've been working really hard on this month with both GTO Wizard and with Jaka Coaching. I'm trying to make sure that I'm always balanced, unless a certain situation arises where I don't need to be. For example, if I'm playing against very exploitable opponents, I don't have to worry about balance because they're not really paying attention to what I'm doing. But because I'm trying to climb the ranks in the poker world, maybe even towards playing a high roller or two myself in the next year or so, I want to make sure that I won't be drawing dead in those scenarios. And so this is a major focus of mine, because as you go through the GTO Wizard drills, you might say, oh, I want to try to pick what the solver would do most of the time. And then, like, if you happen to do that, you might give yourself an A, but if you pick the second most common play, then you might give yourself a B. And that is absolutely not the right way to do it. It's just when you're making a certain play, you should say, is this a pure play or is this something that's part of a mixed strategy? And if it's the latter, you need to make sure you are mixing that other play in there at least once in a while, which I think many of us never actually do, which means against a great opponent, we do run the risk of being highly exploitable. One more thing about this pre-flop, we of course have a large shoving range here, which includes Queen 9 suited. So whereas Queen 9 offsuit is a pure fold, Queen 9 suited is a pure shove, as is Jack 9 suited. Any pair except for aces, occasionally kings, but always pocket queens all the way down to deuces is a pure shove. Ace deuce suited, pure shove, always. Ace jack offsuit, always. King 9 suited, always. King 8 suited down to King 5 suited quite often. So that's your large shoving range. So you see we have a lot more value in that range, and so we need to balance that with these bluffs. Don't let your opponents figure out what you have by not being properly balanced. Okay, so we make the call, so it's already off the rails in GTO terms, but there's 5 big blinds in the pot, and the flop comes Queen of Diamonds, 9 of Spades, 8 of Diamonds, top 2 pair for Hero, and he checks it over to Villain, who bets 1.5 big blinds, and Hero makes the call. Now here we had to fudge a little bit because obviously GTO Wizard never even has Queen 9 off, so let's pretend that the Wizard has 9-8 suited. So instead of top 2 pair, we're going to play bottom 2 pair and see what happens. Because remember, we are folding Queen 9 offsuit and always shoving Queen 9 suited. So Hero is never supposed to have Queen 9 at all on this board. Okay, last week Sylvan talks about having a small check raising range, but it's actually always a shove when we're facing this bet at this stack depth. If we want to raise, it's all in. So very minor vindication, if you will, for me from last week, where I was confused about why we would need to have a small check raising range off of such a short stack. There are spots for that, but not on a board like this. The Wizard confirms that for me, but I wanted to check shove on this board with top 2 pair. All I can tell you guys is that the solver never raises with bottom 2 pair. And bottom 2 pair is obviously more vulnerable than top 2 pair. So I would suspect if the Wizard were capable of having Queen 9 of any kind on this board, it would also be a pure call, which is what the actual Hero did in the hand. There is a shoving range where we check shove, and it does include Queen Jack, as Sylvan suspected last week. Also Queen 10 is a check shove. Those top pair with a gut shot on this wet board, we don't fool around, we go for it. We also bluff shove sometimes with hands like the King 5 of Diamonds and any number of suited 10-7 combos, which are open-ended. So that's your range there for check shoving. And now Villain had bet 1.5. Hero makes the call, and now the turn comes the 10 of Spades. And with 8.5 big blinds in the middle, Hero checks and Villain fires 3 big blinds, and Hero makes the call with Queen 9. So 9-8 actually hates this card even more than Queen 9, I believe. So what does 9-8 do? It's just always a pure call. This is the calling range is 9-8 suited all the time, and other similar two-pair hands all the time. The calling range also includes all the Queen Jack, King Queen, 10-8 suited, and a lot of calling with the nuts, King Jack, Jack 10, hands like that. So we are not folding bottom two pair, which means we probably wouldn't have folded Queen 9 either. Now the river comes the 8 of spades, completing everything and pairing the board. Hero checks, villain shoves, and hero makes the call. And so now, in order to fudge this and compare with the range according to GTO Wizard, I'm going to pretend we had 10-9 because I really don't want to have a full house, right? So this board would have given us a full house. So I'd rather have 10-9, which is the closest we can come to the Queen 9 that we actually had. And now we can actually start folding on the river. Even though we're getting 3-1, there are still some hands we can beat. But yeah, as Sylvan so astutely mentioned, it's more important to survive and try to ladder up, because if we lose now, we can't get first place. But beyond that, it's such a bad run out. And Sylvan was very clear about this last week. Unless your opponent's a crusher, he's not going to find all the bluffs that he's supposed to have. So even against a perfect bluffing range, it's a 68% fold. So against most of your normal opponents, it's probably fine to just put this hand into the pure folding range. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Maybe it's okay to fold this with half the stack already in there because it is such a terrible run out. It's just, if we're going to play this passively, we need to play some very strong hands this passively as well. And I hope you enjoyed this recap of last week's strategy hand. I'd love for you guys to check out GTO Wizard. I've got a deal for you there as well. You can get 24 hours free access to all of GTO Wizard's features. And then when you are ready to buy, you'll save 10% off your first purchase because you used our affiliate link, which is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, let's do one more hand before I get back to the palm trees and the sunshine. This comes from a $109 online mystery bounty tournament that I recently played. It had a $125,000 guarantee. This was towards the end of late reg, less than an hour remaining in late registration. The blinds were 2250 and 4500 with a 550 ante per player. This is a 7-handed table, and the average stack in the tournament is 200K, and we have 330,000 chips, so we have 74-ish big blinds and an M of 33. We're doing great by any measure. Also, I should mention, in this particular mystery bounty tournament, the bounties don't kick in until we're in the money. So anyway, here's the action. The under the gun player opens to 9,000 off of a stack of 300,000, and the cutoff makes the call with a stack of 220. So again, the stacks are, we have 330, the raiser has 300, and the caller has 220 for an effective shortest stack of 45 big blinds. And from here it folds to me in the big blind, and I've got the Queen of Spades, Jack of Hearts, and so it's decision time. Obviously, we're not going to fold pocket jacks, too strong. Do we want to 3-bet this with two opponents, or do we want to just call? And I think that this is going to be a mixed strategy. I think because the original raise came from under the gun, it's totally fine to just call, although I imagine the solver would like to throw in a 3-bet. My guess for the distribution here is going to be 75% call and 25% 3-bet. So let's see next week if I'm right about that. But I did just call, and we're going to see a flop from out of position holding the Jack of Spades, Jack of Hearts. There's 33K in the middle, and the shortest stack remaining in the pot is 208,000. The flop comes Queen of Clubs, 9 of Spades, 8 of Hearts. Does that flop sound familiar to you? Because we also had Queen 9-8 on the previous hand. So just a wild coincidence there, I promise. But if the next hand I do also has a flop of Queen 9-8, you guys can say we can rename the podcast and no longer call it TPE. We'll just call it the Queen 9-8 podcast. And every week I will only explore decision trees with that particular flop. Okay, JK, LOL. It's a familiar flop, Queen 9-8, rainbow though, and I think the other one was not. And the action is on hero with pocket jack. So we've got a pair below top pair, and we've got a gutter ball. So should I lead? Do we want to have leads on this board? I'll bet we do have some leads in our overall range, especially out of position with two opponents on a wet board. Maybe like if I had pocket eights for a set, or possibly the nuts can lead out and then have a few bluffs in there. Maybe hands like 7-5 might enjoy leading as a bluff. Anyway, I decided to check and let the under the gun raiser do his thing. And he checks and the other guy checks. So the flop checks all the way through. The pot is still 33,000. And now the turn comes the 4 of clubs, bringing backdoor clubs on a board of Queen of clubs, 9 of spades, 8 of hearts, 4 of clubs. And this time I did lead, guys. I decided, since everybody declined his option to bet the flop, that kind of opened the door for me to take charge of this hand. So I bet, and I didn't really see any reason to bet big. I went for a very small sizing, 8,100 into the 33K pot. So just 25% with two opponents, very small. And the original raiser called, and then the cutoff overcalled. So maybe I should have bet more, or maybe I want these guys to bet. I just couldn't see a world where anybody had a queen. The board is Queen 9-8. You're telling me you're going to check with two opponents? I just don't think you would. So I feel like the jacks are going to be good so often in this situation. So even after both opponents called me, I liked my hand. And then with 57,000 in the middle now, and the cutoff with just 200K behind, the river comes the deuce of hearts for a final board of Queen of clubs, 9 of spades, 8 of hearts, 4 of clubs, deuce of hearts. So no flush got there, and I have a decision to make. Now they both called me on 4th Street. Do I want to bet again? Can I really get value from anything? Or should I check and just hope to show down jacks cheaply? Well, guys, I think it's time to bet again. I really like my hand. I feel like I can get action from at least one of these guys who might have pocket 10s, maybe a 9, some kind of pair and a straight draw combo or what have you. So yeah, I went for value and I went pretty big. This time I bet 28.5K, half the pot, trying to get value and also empowered by the knowledge that it's very unlikely anyone has Jack 10 when I'm sitting here with 2 jacks in my hand. And knowing that the flush didn't come in, it really feels perfect to go for some thin value. So I got the courage to bet 28.5K, and the original raiser finally folds, but the cutoff tanked for a while and then made the call with the ace of hearts, 9 of hearts for second pair, exactly the type of hand that I was targeting. I was so happy to see that I was able to find the thin value bet and actually get paid. And I'm going to keep it real with you guys. Value betting a hand that can't even beat top pair into 2 opponents on the river and getting paid feels good, man. Feels sexy AF, I'm not going to lie. And that'll do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely check out jaka.poker/TPE for a free 7-day trial and a 20% discount. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.